Hello everybody, it's Grandma again. Time for another story from a Hometown Scrapbook by Ben Weatherwax. Tonight's story, Lots for Christmas. Hello there. As we get closer and closer to the Christmas season, we manage to find in our scrapbook more of the old stories of Christmases of long ago. Christmases as they used to be. Oh, we've had all kinds of the happy holiday hereabouts. From the standpoint of weather, we've had the works. Some of our worst storms have broken out on our streets over the Yuletide season. We've awakened to Christmas mornings to find the rooftops white with snow, the lowlands deep in water, the bright day and the crispness in the air, and even once or twice the day has been balmy and almost summery. Yes, we've had everything in weather here on the harbor at Christmas time. We've also had our quiet, orderly Christmas seasons, and our rough-housed, accidentally marred, crime-scarred Christmases. There have been tragedies and sorrows mixed with the season's traditional joy. Christmas, like any other day and any other season, regardless of its joyous legend, has been made up of a lot of things, and as we recall it in our scrapbook, but there was the year that had a rather unique turn. It was the Christmas of 1911 when a Santa Claus, who preferred that no one knows his name, gave to 12 deserving Grays Harbor people a piece of real estate each, a lot to build a home on. He never publicly revealed his identity, though I have suspicions, and I rather imagine that there are some listeners tonight who know very well who that kindly Santa Claus was. But in any event, we'll tell you the story of the Santa Claus who filled Christmas stockings with real estate back in the year 1911. But first, as is our custom, here's Dick Crombie with a few words from our sponsor. It was early in December 1911 that an Aberdeen newspaper publisher did an article advising the people of Grays Harbor that a local man was in search of 12 deserving families to whom he wished to give Christmas gifts. There were a few requirements. The head of the family must be a deserving man or woman who would appreciate a gift. The one, for one reason or another, was not an owner of property in Grays Harbor town or city. And the gift, why, it was a building lot in a desirable residential section of the city of Aberdeen. It was valued conservatively at $250. There were no strings attached. The recipient of the gift did not have to buy anything, sell anything, build on the lot, improve it, or do anything else but accept it with best wishes of the donor. People scratched their heads. It hadn't been this way before. Usually the people with lots were promoting them and trying to get the best, highest dollar. They wanted guarantees for anything given away, and mighty little real estate was to be given away. Well, most folks thought it was some sort of publicity scheme for the newspaper, maybe a circulation racket of some sort, and others thought that the property was probably out in the tide flats where only a beaver could build a house. Oh, there were skeptics, then just as now. But when the story had been repeated a few days later with variations, some applications for the lavish Christmas gift began to come in. And by that week before Christmas, more than 50 names from all parts of Grays Harbor County had been registered. Just how the donor reduced them down to a dozen, we have no way of knowing. But he did. And on Saturday before Christmas, which incidentally was Monday in December 1911, the anonymous donor mailed out a dozen deeds on lots in Aberdeen to 12 lucky people. Let's follow the mailman who made the rounds on those houses on Christmas Day, for in 1911 the mailman did what it says over the main entrance of the post office building in Washington, D.C. Neither rain nor wind nor snow nor holiday shall prevent the delivery of the mail, which is, by the way, bending the heroic inscription on the national capitol. Yes, it was Christmas morning when the mailman came around with those surprise packages, and it is doubtful if any who received the gift really expected them. There was Elmer Jennings and his wife Della. He was a laborer, and the family lived at 1011 West First Street in Aberdeen. The mailman, sloshing through the mud of the unfilled West End, dropped the deed to a 50 by 130-foot lot into their mailbox that happy Christmas Day. Myron Hilton, who lived at 901 East Heron Street over near the old slave mill, found a deed in his mailbox that Christmas morning. Myrtle Ferret worked at the city hand laundry. Things were not easy for her. She worked very hard. She heard the mailman step on the porch of her home at 211 North Washington Street and wondered who might be sending her a Christmas wish. It was a deed to a lot in Aberdeen. Belle Shaw, for whom things had not gone well since her husband Bob died, looked into her mailbox that Christmas Day and found that a man in a gray suit had played Santa Claus. He had delivered to her home at 117 North G Street one Aberdeen residential lot valued at $250. Jim McNamara was a stonemason with his wife Agnes and his family. He lived at 310 South Broadway in Aberdeen, behind McFadden's livery stable, which would be behind Kaufman Scroggs furniture store by today's landmarks. Things were quiet for stonemasons right then, and it didn't look as though there'd be much of a Christmas time until the postman showed up to hand him an envelope containing a deed to a piece of Aberdeen real estate. Then there was Carrie Williams. She was a widow of the old J.C. Williams and lived alone at 1203 Summit Street. She didn't know what she had received when she tore open the envelope and the very official-looking document tumbled out. The Fuchsias were a big family. There was David and Emma, his wife, and 6 sons, Albert, Alphys, Arthur, Henry, John, and William. The boys kept pretty busy with their own jobs that they had too, but there were a lot of mouths to feed in that family, and every day Dave straddled a bicycle and rode down Market Street to the Aberdeen mill, where he did a 10-hour hitch of labor before he got around to coming home to the family residence at the other end of the street. The deed was read and handed by every member of the family when came to the Fuchsia's house. They talked about it for days. Mason H. Leonard was a carpenter with his wife Nina and his family of kids he raised at 513 West Wishkah Street. The mailman dropped off the deed at his house. There were others, enough to make up a round dozen: Joe Fattenberg, Eric Manson, Sarah Leacock, Leonard Smith. To each of them, the man who wouldn't tell his name sent a deed to a city lot in Aberdeen. With it went his best wishes for the merriest of Christmas they'd ever had, and he sent along the directions for using the lot too. Perhaps you would like to build a home, he pointed out. In the few years when the streetcar's lines had been extended, these will be fine residential lots in a part of Aberdeen where you'll be proud and happy to live. Perhaps you'll prefer to keep the lot as a little nest egg that you can turn into cash someday when you need it. Property on Grays Harbor is going to increase in value, he pointed out. Whatever you wish to do with it, it's yours without any strings attached for a very Merry Christmas. With my kindest wishes. Well, that's the way things were back in 1911. The way of saying Merry Christmas in gold letters. And that year, 12 Grays Harbor families, the individuals, were made very happy by an Aberdeen man who wouldn't tell us his name, but who used the holiday season to present to deserving residents a piece of their hometown, and they have never been able to own before. And now, Dick, please say a few words from our sponsor. Yes, there was once a Christmas when an Aberdeen man played Santa Claus with city lots and made a lot of people very happy. And there was another Christmas about 41 years ago when one of the most colorful Christmas parties ever staged in this town was, and we use the word advisedly, was staged by Moose Goldsmith, the operator of the Empire Theatre in Aberdeen. It was Christmas time 1908. Moose Goldsmith was running the Empire, which showed an occasional motion picture, but depended mostly on the stable vaudeville talent for its drawing power. Moose had a dozen entertainers who flocked to his standard and did their little bits nightly before his dim footlights. There was Bill Haley, who could tease more music out of a banjo than anyone who ever played the boards on Grays Harbor. There was Mountain Jack Williams and his cowboy number, James Booth and his impersonators. The Fairchilds were a husband and wife team. Harry Davis was a juggler, and Giles shone as an acrobat. There were lots of others of various abilities and leanings, and most of the people who fought the footlights for their daily bread. Christmas came to their sparsely furnished rooms without much of a cheer that most people attach for the happy season. Now, Moose Goldsmith was not what you would call a philanthropist. He was known for his charities. No, he was an old Ebenezer Scrooge. But the host at the Christmas party, well, that was about the last thing that Grays Harbor would have accused him of. But that year, something happened to Moose. Maybe it was something Mrs. Goldsmith said, or perhaps it was the story that he had heard from one of his entertainments about a Christmas would be before them. Anyhow, Moose decided to throw a Christmas party for the gang. Oh, nothing exciting, just a modest party. Maybe some cold cuts and a keg of beer. He thought of having the Trends over the Hotel Mecca make the arrangements and help him. But when he mentioned Christmas party to the entertainers, they looked aghast at Moose. Why, they told him, why should we go to the hotel when we can hold it right here on stage? It sounded like a good idea to Moose, and why not? There were tables, chairs, scenery, lights, heat, and the old Empire Theatre had served many a good stage meals as part of a dramatic kit. Why not a real spread? Well, the fever got a hold of Moose, just as it reached into the hearts of most everyone at Christmas time, and the further along he went with his plans, the more elaborate they became. Finally, he had Pete Caros lined up to cook a turkey, the biggest one he could find. Townshed Bakery was turning out special cakes for him. He had shopped Harry Bloomquist's grocery over on G Street for all the other ingredients for the party. Mrs. Goldsmith supervised the details, and that Christmas Day, when the actors and vaudevillian troops were supposed, by the best traditions, to be huddled over chilly rooms wondering where they're going to get their next meal, Moose Goldsmith staged one of the grandest parties that we have ever seen. The curtain was raised at the old Empire Theatre, and they placed their big party to an empty house. But none gave more of a fire and zip that characterized them as showmen. Bill Haley slapped his banjo till the pins in the fly loft seemed to dance. The Mountain Bill Williams did his rope tricks. The Fairchilds did their cakewalk number while Shining pounded on the old piano, and Jim Booth panicked the crowd with his imitations. And there was a Santa Claus. Sure, Harry Davis slipped into the costume and found a gift for every one of them. He didn't come down the flue, but descended from a flight of ladders with his package slung over his back, circled the table with gifts for everyone. There were songs and horseplay, and Christmas came to the old Empire Theatre as it has never done before. And Moose Goldsmith, well, people thought a little different of Moose after that. It's true that some could hardly believe it, but it raised his stock. And that's the story we find here in our hometown scrapbook for tonight. Thanks for listening.